You're listening to The Real Estate Report with Brent Gove and Robert Lewis on KFBK.
And good afternoon and welcome to The Real Estate Report. Today is January 4th, 2020, if you can believe that. 2020, the year of the optometrist, but we around here say, no, it's the year of the optimist, because we are extremely optimistic about real estate and the real estate market for the year. And so welcome and thanks for tuning in. We have a great show for you today. We're going to cover a number of topics. A couple of bills have been passed by our state legislature, signed by the governor, and took effect just a few days ago. So we're going to talk about one of the main bills that I want to discuss, and that is the rent control. I'm sure most of you have heard about rent control, and we're going to tell you the 10 myths and the 10 truths about rent control, and then the one thing that everybody must do, all landlords, I should say, must do, whether you have a single family home or a whole apartment building, you need to do this. And we're also going to talk about how the new rent control bill affects everybody, folks, not just people who are landlords or tenants, but everybody. So we're also going to talk about how to get your financial house in order if you're planning to buy a home this year, if you're planning to buy an investment property, maybe a vacation rental. It's all happening in 2020. So here we go. Hey, I'm not alone here today. I want to introduce my guests and my co-host. First of all, I have a co-host joining me. She just walked into the studio. Traffic was terrible, but she made it. Thank goodness. Alicia Conte. We got it. Look at that. They love you. They love you. All right. So get right on that microphone, lips right on it, right up to it. There you go. And now we can all hear you. So welcome, Alicia. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing amazing. I'm super excited to be here. The day has already started out awesome. I have been to a nursing home with my miniature horse.
That's right. You have a miniature horse, what's his name?
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy. Big Daddy. I've seen that little horse.
So we go around town and bring joy. And then I gave a riding lesson. So I'm here in my cowboy boots.
Yeah, I know. You kind of look like you just came off the range.
I did.
Well, awesome. That's cool. And, my staff saw Big Daddy and said, how do we get Big Daddy at our house? So I'll talk to you about that later. We're also joined by my favorite attorney, and should be yours, Mr. Tom Hogan. And Tom, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah, you're the guy that I keep here in case I say something wrong, stupid, or something to get me in trouble. You can hit my mute button and correct it all and keep me out of trouble, all right?
Yeah, I have the papers ready here. We'll be in court by the afternoon.
Yeah, I'm sure we will without you. So anyway, hey, before we move forward, I want to address one thing. This is the Real Estate Report on KFBK, heard Saturdays 4 to 5, every Saturday for about the last 15 years, hosted by the king of real estate, Brent Gove. And Brent, you're out there. We love you. We're thinking about you. And Brent has decided to take a 6-month sabbatical from the show. He's been doing it every Saturday, or almost every Saturday. So like I said, 15 years. So he said, Chris, I need a break. Could you take this for me? And he's still the king of real estate. He's still out there doing his thing. He's still out there with his awesome team in Roseville, selling the heck out of real estate and really helping people. So, Brett, we really appreciate this opportunity and hope we can fill your shoes well. Right, Alicia?
Absolutely.
All right, we got 6 months to get going here to make Brent proud of us.
We will do it, for sure.
Very cool. Hey, okay, now a couple of things. This show is a call-in show, so if you want to have a comment, a question, you've got a free attorney right here. Ask him. It's got to be real estate related. Let's leave it at that, okay? But if you got a free attorney, right, Tom?
Nothing I say can be held against me in a court of law.
No divorce questions.
I have the right to remain silent.
And it's also, we're being broadcast live on, oh, by the way, to reach us at the studio, 921-1530. That's 921-1530. And also, we're broadcasting on Facebook Live. So if you want to watch us and see our smiling faces, you can do that by going to Facebook and click on or type in RentPros. And lo and behold, there you are. And if you're too shy to call, don't be. But if you are, you can even click out a message on Facebook, and we will see that and answer your question right here live on the air. Okay? All right. So a little bit of housekeeping. I am Chris Airola. Let's introduce you. I'm Chris Airola. I own RentPros Property Management. I'm also the president of the local Rental Owners Association in Northern California. And I want to let you know that we're going to be talking about a lot of topics very lightly today. But if you want to know more, we do have a ton of upcoming events and classes in January and February, including some mixers with our attorney, Tom Hogan, where we'll be covering a topic. And then it's a lot of Q&A time. We'll be doing a class, for example, on top 5 mistakes landlords make. We also have a Q&A section there. We're going to be doing some first-time home buyer and some workshops with Alicia. We're going to be talking about how to handle tenant security deposits and a whole lot more I won't bore you with now. But if you're interested in any of that, we go by too fast here. Just go to rentpros.com, click on classes and events, and there it is. Okay? All right. Well, Alicia, we didn't get a chance to talk much before the show, but thanks for being here. Now, what do you got for us today, or do you have anything right now, or do you want me to come back to you? In fact, I can do that, and I think you want to talk about loans, right? The rates are kind of low right now, right?
Yeah, I can talk about that. There is something specific I do want to cover, and so you just let me know when I get a minute to run with it, and I'll hop right in.
I am going to give you a minute right now.
Okay, perfect.
Get started, and then we'll break in about a minute and go from there.
Okay, so my name's Alicia. I actually run a mortgage brokerage, a local one. I call my team the American Dream Mortgage Team, and I have been in the industry 20 years, but I've never had a better team than I do right now. We are so aligned in the fact that we love and want to serve and care for other people in the same way. And so what's fun is, and what I'm going to hit on, because it's January 4th, and now we have the opportunity to set up our finances correctly so that this year we all have the best financial year yet. And so I'm going to give you guys some foundation, something we all are familiar with, something we all know. One thing that it starts with is just getting a 3-inch binder, one single 3-inch binder. If you're self-employed, you have your own business, you'll grab 2 of them, and as many dividers as you have bills. And so those are the foundations, and I'll go into a little bit later when I have some more time what you're going to do with them. But I'm going to teach you guys the starts to being financially free, the 6 steps to financial freedom. That's awesome.
I knew you had something like that. I know what you come up with is always great, and I can attest to this. I was at Alicia's home the other day, and she has a lot of 2-inch binders, and they're full of stuff with all these tabs, and it was mind-boggling. And I thought, whew, okay, there you go. So anyway, we're going to cover that. And so let's jump right into the show here and talk about some of the myths and some of the truths surrounding rent control. Now, I'm going to tell you, rent control is something normally most people think of rent control, or they hear rent control, they think of rent caps. In other words, hey, how much can you raise the rent? How much can you not raise the rent? But I'm going to tell you, the bill that was just passed by our legislature, signed by the governor, and took effect just a few days ago, is really very little about rent caps. And it's a lot about control, property control. So you got rent control, we think of rent caps, but the control is the real key word. In fact, if you look at the bill, you're going to see about 4 pages. It's called AB, Assembly Bill 1482. And it's about 4 pages. And Tom, the last time I read it, there was, I think I counted 4 lines. There's a paragraph, about a 4-line paragraph that talks about rent caps. The rest of it is all about control. Am I right?
It's about control.
Yeah, it's really about control. And so myth number 1, here we go. Myth number 1, the general public wants rent control.
Well, the general public overwhelmingly in 2018 voted against what they considered rent control.
Our last major election, November, we came along, and I believe it was around 63% said, no, we don't want rent control, right?
That is correct.
But the legislator, in its infinite wisdom, and the governor signed a rent control bill, and so now we have a rent control bill. So contrary to what you might hear, see, etc. on the news, actually Californians didn't want rent control, but now we have it. So the second myth I'm going to get into before our break is myth number 2 is that rent control keeps rents low. What do you think, Tom?
93% of economists say it does not.
Yeah, including conservative economists and also very, very liberal economists. I'm trying to think of the name of that very prominent columnist. Krugman, thank you. Krugman, yeah. I mean, he's the spokesman for the left, and he is very much against this. And fact, folks, there is nowhere, and if you can think of a place, I'd love to hear it, nowhere where rent control has passed and rents have not gone up drastically.
No, Portland, Oregon, where I lived for several years, rents have gone through the roof.
Portland is a great example of that. It's a great example of that. So there's 2 myths right there. Now we're going to come back with some truths in about a couple of minutes here, and we're going to be back with Alicia and Tom, and so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Owning rental property should be easy and profitable. At RentPros Property Management, that's exactly what it is. Hello, my name is Chris Airola, and I am the proud owner of RentPros Property Management. As a full-time property management company, my staff and I have spent the last 30 years developing ways to make owning rental property easy and profitable. From choosing the right tenant to coordinating maintenance and repairs, the RentPros team has been the #1 choice for literally thousands of rental property owners just like you. They trust RentPros to get the job done right. Whether you own 1 property or 100, a single-family home or a whole apartment community, RentPros has you covered. So don't let tenants, toilets, and trash rob you of your valuable time. Give RentPros a call today at 789-3500. That's 789-3500. Or better yet, visit us on the web at rentpros.com. That's rentpros.com.
This is the Real Estate Report with Brent Gove, News Radio KFBK on FM at 93.1.
And welcome back. You are listening to the Real Estate Report with Chris Airola and Alicia Conte, who's not near her microphone again, but okay, there you go. And so, we're back, and we're talking about some of the new bills that have been passed here in California relating to real estate. One of the biggest, I believe, is the Rent Control AB, Assembly Bill 1482. There's a couple of others we might try to get to today, but those are the biggies. And as I said earlier, if you want to call in, have a question, the number here is 921-1530, and you can also tune in to Facebook, RentPros, and watch us live. Okay, back to Tom. Tom, you still there?
I'm still here, Chris.
Okay, good. So look, here's another myth that I hear, and I was on Facebook chatting with some people today, and I see this myth a lot, and here it is that landlords always want to increase rent. Now, as a property manager of over 30 years, managing more than 1,000 properties, I can tell you firsthand, this is not the general case. In fact, Tom, when I'm doing my rent analysis every year, or my staff is, and we're making recommendations for our landlords to adjust rents, most of the time, they don't want to increase rents.
Well, I think most of the time what landlords want are stable tenants where they get cash flow and they have someone who's reliable in the property. And if they have a good relationship.
Someone who's going to take care of the place, pay the rent on time, and be a good customer and be a happy customer. Let's put it that way. Be a happy customer. To have a happy customer, you got to treat them right. And yet, every time you turn on the media, turn on the news, it's bad. Now, are there bad players out there? Certainly. You've dealt with them.
I have dealt with them.
I've dealt with them. I was on the phone today with a code enforcement officer who that's kind of all he deals with. And so they're out there. The bad players are out there. But for the most part, especially private landlords, private rental owners, they're really not into pumping the rents every time. You know who is? Corporate owners.
Normally, they're going to look at what the market is, and then they're going to move it to market every time without consideration to who's actually coming in to stay there.
Right, and they're going to move it and push it, and those, they have bean counters, they have bottom lines, they have sometimes shareholders, and so those are the guys. Now, in your mind, Tom, just since we've kind of set the stage here to say private investors, private landlords, if you will, tend not to raise rent and want happy customers and want long-term tenants versus corporate owners who do raise the rents a lot, probably will put in a less expensive widget if the property needs repair. What do you think rent control does? Do you think rent control creates more private owners or more corporate owners?
No, in the class I taught recently for property managers, I pointed out that the people who wanted higher compliance costs for more strict labor laws, higher minimum wages, were the large corporations, because the competitors, the small businesses, and the middle class working folks who buy a house, they can't afford me to do all the compliance work that needs to be done to comply with all the code requirements.
Right. Well, didn't you just have at one of your workshops a client come up to you, an individual owner who, he owned 10 properties? Yeah, 10 properties. There's an individual owner, probably takes great care of his tenants, knows them all by first name, really watches after them, doesn't make the rents. Am I describing this guy?
You're describing several guys.
Yeah, most of everybody I deal with. And what did he say to you at that seminar?
He said, I'm out of here.
I'm out of here, baby. I'm done. I'm done. I'll leave it to the corporate guys. They want to come in here. They can afford this. They can do that. Yeah. And so, look, this is one of the major problems. If you, sometimes you don't know where to start, do you? I mean, you get kind of speechless. But the fact of the matter is, it's these rules, these laws often accomplish the opposite of what they're trying to accomplish.
Well, what it does is, and there's this myth that it helps it helps poor, lower middle class and fixed income people to keep their properties, but that's not true. Actually, the opposite is true, because you're wealthier. For instance, a 60-year-old tenant who can stay in the same place for 10 years is going to benefit by a rent cap. But a person who is, say you're single, you get married, you have kids, you're going to be living next to the guy who's paying $1,200 a month. He's going to be paying rent that goes years back, and they're going to be in the non-rent controlled property that's renting for $3,500 a month, and that's happening in San Francisco right now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So let's cover one more here before our break. We just covered 3 myths. And that is, the general public wants rent control. No, they don't. They just voted against it. The myth that rent control keeps rents low. No, it doesn't. It always, always, always raises rents. In fact, I'm an investor. I own rental property. And in fact, did you make resolutions this year? New Year's resolution? I always do that. One of my resolutions was I need to buy another rental property right here in Sacramento, California, because I know one thing, rents is going up, baby. It's going up. And I'm going to be part of that, right? There you go. And then the other myth that we covered, landlords always want to increase rent, is very untrue, except for my corporate ownerships. And even myself, I don't tend to raise rents to their max. Well, let's do a truth. Here's one. Rent control can affect single-family homes, right?
It can.
Okay, so the myth is that people think, well, it doesn't affect single-family homes. I don't have to worry about it. I have a single-family home. Who cares about rent control? But it does. And tell me a way how rent control could affect a single-family home, Tom.
Well, in one aspect, the new AB 1482 has a tripwire clause in it. If by...
A what clause?
I call it a tripwire clause.
A booby trap.
A booby trap.
A booby trap, okay.
And the booby trap is there's a specific section of code you have to put in your addenda and have your tenants sign it at the next renewal from and after July of this year. And if you don't, then you have just tripwired yourself into rent control.
Okay, so now you just covered, when I started the show, I said there's one thing that landlords must do no matter what kind of rental property you own, and you just mentioned it, and that is they need to include this clause that's in the bill, so you can copy. And by the way, the bill is posted on my website, rentpros.com. You can go there, you can copy and paste, you can print it out, whatever. I don't care. Take it, kick it, take it. It's public domain. And you need to give your tenants that clause. If you don't give your tenants that clause, then am I right, Tom, after July 20th?
I believe it's July 1st.
I'm sorry, July 1st, 2020. I was getting my years confused with my dates. Okay. So after July 2020, it becomes subject to rent control if you don't give your tenants this proper notification, right?
Yeah, and a lot of my longtime, clients who like to use their 1982 Sacramento Valley apartment that no longer exists association rental agreement they bought 40 years ago.
I've seen those.
They come in and say, well, I need to evict this person. It's like, well, next year I'm going to be telling them, I'm sorry, you're rent controlled.
Yep. So single family home, anything. So you need to, if you need the clause, give us a call at my office. What is it? No, I can't think of my phone number. 899-4668. That's my cell number. Give me a holler or go to my website. You'll see it there. And we have 2 minutes left. How about this, Tom? Let's cover one more truth, and that is rent control always reduces the number of available rentals.
It does.
How is that possible?
Well, because when you regulate something and increase regulation, you get less of it.
Yeah.
You get less of what you tax and more of what you subsidize.
Your attendee who said, I'm out of here, right? Okay, so I have both. I see both in my business. I see some people looking at rent control going, oh, well, here's my opportunity. I know rents go up. Yet some look at this and they say, the regulation, the control is too much for me to handle. And instead of hiring a management company or joining the Rental Owners Association and learning themselves, or like I say, hiring a management company, they just give up, don't they?
They just
give up, take his 10 properties off the market, go exchange them into a property in Arizona or Nevada or something, and live the good life, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's going to be paramount is you're going to need a knowledgeable property manager. It's going to be very difficult to DIY your own properties with the new regimen.
Very difficult, yeah. In fact, very dangerous. It's a little like driving your car without insurance. If you don't, belong to the Rental Owners Association or an organization like that, and by the way, to find out more about the Rental Owners Association, go to our site and just look up Rental Owners Association. Go to rentpros.com and look at Rental Owners Association, and it's right there.
Yep.
And so, anyway, well, there's the clock, and I think that we're going to have to cover more of this when we get back. Remember, the number to the show is 921-1530 if you want to call in. Follow us on Facebook at Facebook RentPros, and we will be back in a moment.
Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know.
Oh, I don't want it to stop. Let it keep going, Luis. We got a whole dance party. I got Alicia dancing, Tom dancing. Hey, get back to your microphones, guys. We got a show to do here. Anyway, thanks, Luis. Okay, so welcome back to the Real Estate Report. You are listening to Chris Airola, your host, and
Alicia Conte.
Yep, your co-host, and we are talking about everything real estate. In fact, we were just talking with attorney at law Thomas Hogan. Thomas, how do people get in touch with you if they want to reach you? And now they can go to rentpros.com. You're right there on my preferred vendors list.
Thank you.
But what's your phone number? How do they reach you?
Well, I'm Thomas M. Hogan, so don't get the
There are
doppelganger.
two Tom Hogans in town, yes.
There's one that does divorce and bankruptcy. So
you're not that guy.
If your marriage is going okay, then call Thomas M. Hogan, 916-929-2255.
929-2255, area code 916. You'll get great service. You'll get great, I think, fair billing. And that's why I use Thomas. I have 1,000 properties, been doing this for 30 years. I have lots of attorneys who want to be my man, but there's only one my man at RentPros Property Management for all my attorney needs, and that is Thomas Hogan. So I highly endorse him. Well, listen, we were just talking about truths and myths of the new real estate, some of the new real estate laws, specifically AB 1482, which is the rent control law. We only got through 5 of those, but I tell you what, if you want to see the rest of them, I'm going to post them on my website. We'll be talking about them next week. We're doing classes on this stuff. This is really important, really deep stuff. The last point I want to make is that, look, if you think rent control doesn't affect you because, well, you don't own rental property, well, you're not a tenant, well, you're not a landlord, forget about it. It affects you, right, Tom?
It's going to affect everybody who owns real estate.
Everybody. And just one very quick example, there's a bunch of them, but let's say the tenant from Hades moves in next door and they're a terror and you can't live with them and they're awful. A month ago, we could have said, yeah, I agree. Look at all this evidence. And we give the tenant a notice to vacate. Can we do that anymore, Tom?
Well, we can give them notices. The issue is that we used to be able to just ask someone to leave because that was the owner's right to not deal with somebody if they didn't want to. That's no longer the case.
Now you have the burden of proof,
which in a court of law is a lot. You have to bring in witnesses, maybe summon police.
So if you get the neighbor from Hades living next door to you, notice I'm not saying hell, I'm saying Hades because I'm polite. Okay? So we want to say if you get a bad tenant next door to you and you want him out, now you got to be willing to come to court and you're going to be testifying. So otherwise they get to stay. And they may still get to stay with some of the rulings that I've seen come through lately. So it's a whole, it escalates the difficulty greatly.
Yeah, I have recent stories that could put your hair on end, but we don't have time.
Come to the free class and you can hear Tom's story that will make your hair stand on end. I want to see that. I want to hear that too. All right, so I want to get back to Alicia. Alicia, you have a whole operation going on, and you are an amazing lender. You're here because of that. You're here because you know your biz, and you know how to get people set up and organized and ready to take that next step, whether it's a first-time home or a second home or a vacation home that they want to Airbnb out and be part of that whole moving thing. Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about your program, Alicia.
So basically, I started doing this many years back. Oh my God, I guess it's been like since 2006. And I used to file.
Started when you were 10, huh?
Right. I used to file all of my bills away in a filing cabinet, which I think a lot of people do.
Yep.
And, you go to pay the bill, you take it, you fold it up, you stick it in the filing cabinet. The problem with that is you don't really ever look at it again. And over time, it just keeps building and building. So I ended up going back to our roots, which every single one of us is trained for so many years, 18 years for the most part, with binders. And so I ended up taking one binder and putting a divider for every single bill I had, including one just simply for receipts.
So you're not doing this electronically and all that file stuff and electronics and doing it in, I don't know, what is it, Dropbox and all that. You're doing this physically on paper, like the old style way. I love it. I do the same thing. I love it. Envelopes. I use envelopes. Yeah. All right. Sorry to interrupt.
I don't do envelopes. I do bill pay, but I did do the electronic. I went away from my roots and I got technological and I started scanning everything. And to be honest with you, my savings went down.
Yep.
When I stopped tracking it and touching it and highlighting it and going through every single transaction, because the step number 1 in the 6 steps to financial freedom, number 1 is tracking the money. What happened to my money last month? And it's very surprising, but not really. I can talk to 100 people. There might be 1 or 2, literally out of 100 of my clients that say, oh yes, I absolutely go line by line. Everybody else goes, oh, I just checked my phone.
Yep.
They miss transactions. They can't tell when things are double charged. They don't know when fraud's going on until it's, thousands of dollars are spent. But number 1, once a month, first week of the month, I literally go line item by line item, every credit card, every bank account. Mm-hmm. And what's funny is a girlfriend of mine was just over this week, and she has a 770 score. She's a rock star financially. She saves like a mad woman, 50 grand in her checking. And so when I said to her, hey, listen, I want to teach this to you. Well, she's like, well, I don't need this.
You said what?
I said, I want to teach this program to you. I want to teach this system to you. And she's like, well, I don't need it. I'm doing amazing. The benefit of it, you guys, is so funny. I did it with her. I made her surrender. And she goes, Alicia, this relieved anxiety I didn't even realize I had.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not
Money
necessarily.
anxiety.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's awareness. And so we think, oh, you only do a budget or you only go through your finances as if you have problems with money and you're not good with money. No, a lot of people, very successful people and people who are great savers, they live with a lot of financial anxiety all the time.
I just put all my money in a mattress, and that way I know exactly where it is. Exactly. Well, Alicia, do you teach classes on this? Do you?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that.
So January 16th, I'm actually going to do a Facebook Live, but I'm also going to invite whoever wants to come to my office at 5 p.m. And I'm going to supply the binders and the dividers, and I'm actually going to have the hole puncher right there. So I'm going to help you get your finances set up here in January. So for the remainder of the year, you're dialed in. It'll make it easier to follow the program.
Okay.
But the goal is to save 20% of your net deposits in the bank. And I will be going through the full 6 steps to the financial freedom and teaching you the full path.
Cool. So let's put this on my website as well under my events. It says rentpros.com under events and classes. We'll put that on there. So if people can't remember, who was that guy on the radio and that lady who knew everything? It's no, seriously. I mean, this isn't new. It's not brain surgery, right? But people just don't do it. And I did the same thing years ago, and I still do it. I want to see it. I want to see it, and I want to be able to look at it and think about it. And so I'll put this on you said January 16th. Now, 16th. You own American Dream Mortgage. Now, where's that? Is that going to be at your office?
Yes, and so it's in Roseville on Foothills Boulevard, 10,002 Foothills Boulevard in Roseville. 10,002,
okay. And how do people get a hold of you? How do they reach you?
My personal cell phone is 916-256-6486, and yes, my personal cell phone. I'm never too busy.
You're
Feel
brave.
free to text or call me anytime. I love people. I truly love people, and this gives me the chance to help others, and that really is a burning thing inside of me. And so reach out. I'd love to help you.
Okay, well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get back. In the meantime, check us out on Facebook Live at RentPros on Facebook. And if you want to call in, the number is 921-1530. We'll be right back.
Owning rental property should be easy and profitable. At RentPros Property Management, that's exactly what it is. Hello, my name is Chris Airola, and I am the proud owner of RentPros Property Management. As a full-time property management company, my staff and I have spent the last 30 years developing ways to make owning rental property easy and profitable. From choosing the right tenant to coordinating maintenance and repairs, the RentPros team has been the #1 choice for literally thousands of rental property owners just like you. They trust RentPros to get the job done right. Whether you own 1 property or 100, a single family home or a whole apartment community, RentPros has you covered. So don't let tenants, toilets, and trash rob you of your valuable time. Give RentPros a call today at 789-3500. That's 789-3500. Or better yet, visit us on the web at rentpros.com. That's rentpros.com.
93.1 KFBK.
And we're back. And thanks for listening. You are listening to the Real Estate Report with Chris Airola and Alicia Conte. There you go, right next to the microphone that time. Awesome. Okay, so we're talking with Thomas Hogan, our guest attorney, about some of the new laws that have been passed in 2020, right? 2020, I almost said it.
They were passed in 2019.
Yeah, I know. I was actually signing a bunch of papers yesterday, and I thought, I'm going to remember 2020. I will remember. And about the fourth one, I wrote 20, and I wrote 19.
Because if you're in the city of Sacramento or
what a doofus.
Several other communities, you've been under rent control for a while.
That's true. There. And we have Alicia Conte, who is telling us about an amazing Get It Together, Get Your Finances Together program that she's been teaching. It kind of reminds me of the Dave Ramsey thing. I mean, it's all about just get out of the clouds and get it all straight, get it on paper, get something physical. I think that's more how we're built, frankly, right?
Yes, awareness.
Awareness, and be able to look at this and feel it, touch it, especially when you need to get your finances in order, or if you're trying to take that next step. And so tell us when that class is. Again, Alicia, you said, when is that?
January 16th at 5 p.m., and I will be doing a Facebook Live for those that can't get there. at 5 o'clock. But if you do want to attend, I will be providing the binders and dividers for you. And
so
you can
get a free
RSVP.
binder.
Mm-hmm.
This is a free class, right?
It's a free class. I'm going to set you all up for the year. And you can literally bring your grocery bag full of your bills if you'd like, and we'll hole punch them together, get them in there.
I have a bunch of those.
I really want to see people succeed this year, so I'm offering that to help them jumpstart their finances.
Great. And then you're a lender. You own American Dream Mortgage, right? That's a kind of a new company. You've been in business forever, but you recently went out and started your own. Am I right?
You are.
Okay, cool. And you're doing loans like crazy. I have a friend that was in there and said, man, they're busy. They're rocking and rolling, but you're not too busy. Well, you're in there, and there's a lot of people in there because you're good. You're offering good rates. And I know you can't give a rate on the air without doing the APR, all the fast talking thing. But give me an idea. If somebody wants to go out and buy a home right now, roughly, can they get a 4% interest rate?
So the crazy thing is, with some of my government loans, my APR is at 3%. For example,
wait a minute, hold it. APR is usually the higher one. That's after all that fast talking, and they give you that. What that is that's an interest rate. You tell me if I'm wrong. That's an interest rate that kind of includes the cost of getting the loan.
So with APR, what they do is they take your closing costs, compare them to your loan amount. It turns into a decimal number. And the main purpose of an APR is you compare your note rate, the rate your payment's based on, with your APR. And company A and company B, whoever's gap between the two numbers is bigger, is charging you more in fees. So it's a way to recognize who's charging more in fees without having to know what the fine print means.
Right. So if somebody says, look, here's your interest rate is 2%, but the APR is 4%,
they're paying a lot for that
hosed.
rate.
Okay. So if the interest rate's 2.5 and I'm getting the APR of 3%, that's probably a good deal. Yeah,
and that's a pretty typical conventional APR.
You mean you can get loans in the 2s now? I mean, my actual note rate would be in the 2s? Really?
Absolutely. With a 640 credit score on a government loan right now, an FHA loan as an example. Now, that's with as low as 3.5% down.
Wow.
So very low down payment, but I am seeing rates under 3%. And also on VA as well. So rates are amazing. Absolutely amazing.
You know what, Alicia? That's almost like free money if you think about it. I will tell you, when I started in real estate, it was 1983. Tom, what were the interest rates in 1983?
Well, on my...
Jimmy Carter was president.
Yeah.
Well,
they were as high as 17% in the late 70s.
Yeah, they were at 18 that when I got my license and tried to sell a house. That didn't work very well. Actually, I did sell a house, but it was all creative financing, and I didn't know what was going on, but it worked. So, but yeah, 18%, and now it's 2%. That's free money.
Crazy.
What do you think about the idea of somebody going to their house where they've got a lot of equity? I'll tell you what I think of this. I like this idea, so I'm going to ask you, going to their house, doing a refinance, take it from 4 or whatever it is down to 2 or 2.5 or whatever it is, and going out and buying a rental property or a vacation home or something like that.
Well, I'm going to give you an example, a personal example. We bought a duplex last year, 3-bedroom, 2 baths on each side.
Yep.
If I was renting it low, it would be $3,000 in income. And the truth is, the mortgage is $1,600.
Yeah.
And so cash flow, boom, immediately. So I think that it's an amazing idea to buy investment property. If you want that extra cash flow and a second set of retirement working for you besides, let's say, your 401k, investment property is the way to go.
Yeah, and if you're talking about interest rates in 4 or 5% or something, it's a coin toss. But really, in the 2s, and by the way, I'm just thinking, I didn't know it was in the 2s. That means I won a bet with our boy Jeff Compton. You know Jeff, and I had a bet with him that they would never get to 2, and I said they would, and there they are. Didn't even know I won. So 2%, that's free money. You still got to manage it. You still got to know what you're looking at. You still got to buy the right property in the right place and do all those right things. And that's what we'll help you with at RentPros. Call us before you buy the home. Realtors out there, if you're working with an investor and they're looking at certain properties, by all means, I urge you to come to one of our classes. They're free for realtors. How to work with investors like a pro. How to make sure your investor loves you at the end of the deal, the middle of the deal, and is ready to buy another property through you. Let's buy in the right area, the right price, the right kind of property. That's what we can do. So I suggest if you're thinking New Year's resolution, you want to find a way to generate and this is a whole other show, passive income, right? That's what we're talking about. You just said $1,600. It rents for $3,000. Somewhere it sounds like a profit in there.
Absolutely.
That you're not going out and working for every day. The money comes in, so you're not doing anything other than managing the property, which is pretty simple. So we call that passive income. So if passive income is what you're after, check into rentpros.com. Give Alicia a call, 916-256-6486. And by the sound of the music, I can tell that our time is near. So, Tom, thanks for joining us.
Thanks
I much
for having
appreciate it. Alicia, you're awesome. You did a great job. And finally, out to
Thank
my
you.
boy, Brent Gove. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Brent.
And we'll see you all next week.